Here we go with the next set of video notes in our Evolution in Animals unit, this one on echinoderms. Echinoderms are some of the only higher organisms that have radial symmetry. So if you recall, that means they have multiple lines of symmetry. They actually have an endoskeleton. It's not an exoskeleton, it's an endoskeleton, which is made of calcium carbonate, little plates called ossicles. And the reason it's an endoskeleton, it seems like it's an exoskeleton, but the reason it's an endoskeleton is because the skeleton is covered by a very, very thin layer of skin. As far as the other characteristics that we've been looking at in the other organisms, these guys have 3 tissue layers, so that puts them a little bit more advanced, or in the more advanced category. As far as body cavity is concerned, they have a true coelom, so they're coelomates, and they are segmented, and interestingly enough, they have a water vascular system. The phylum Echinodermata is the only phylum to have this water vascular system, which is basically just a system of tubing that moves water around their body that helps them move stuff around their body as far as nutrients and waste and oxygen, but also helps them literally move with tube feet, which again is a structure that only echinoderms have. All of this is water powered, kind of like a hydraulic system. Some examples of echinoderms, these are the different classes that fall under phylum Echinodermata. Crinoidea are sea lilies and feather stars, like this guy up here. Ophiuroidea are brittle stars, look like quote-unquote normal sea stars, except they have really, really long legs. These guys can actually like walk along the bottom, pretty cool looking. Echinoidea are things like urchins and sand dollars. So this guy is a sea urchin, he would belong to Echinoidea. This guy is a sand dollar, belonging to Echinoidea. And Holothroidea, these guys here, sea cucumbers, and then Asteroidea are sea stars, so asteroid, think of like star fish that way. And while we're on this topic, we should say echinoderm. The word echinoderm literally means spiny skin. So these guys have spiky skin, which is something you'll see when you're dissecting the sea star. That's kind of where the Echinoidea comes from. In here, Echinoidea, these guys are very, very spiky. So echinoderms have spiny skin. Echine means spiny, derm means skin. And to end with, we'll talk about some of the organ systems of echinoderms. One thing that's fairly unique about these guys is their digestive system. They actually have 2 stomachs, a cardiac stomach and what's called a pyloric stomach. And basically, the sea star can push the cardiac stomach outside of their body and then grab onto some food and then pull it into the pyloric stomach to do the digestion. So if they were going to like pry open their favorite food, like a mussel, they could pry open just a little bit and then push that stomach in and sort of start the digestive process outside of their body. That water vascular system can take care of almost everything else. Their circulatory system, respiratory, excretory, all this is taken care of by that water vascular system. So the ocean water does all this stuff. In fact, as I look at it, this little bracket shouldn't include our nervous system. And another very interesting thing about these guys is their nervous system, though. They don't have a brain. They don't have cephalization, which you recall as having a well-defined head. No cephalization. They have no distinct brain. What they have instead is a nerve ring and radial nerves. So basically they have a ring that goes around that central part of, for example, a sea star, and then nerves that can shoot out into the legs. And what's kind of cool with these guys is if they break apart, any piece of the sea star that has some of that nerve ring in it can regenerate into a new sea star. And so the legend goes that back in the day, fishermen hated sea stars because they clogged up their nets or whatever, and every time they would pull up a sea star, they'd be like, ah, stupid sea star, and break it in half and throw it back in the ocean, and all they were really doing was creating 2 new sea stars because they can regenerate, which is something that's pretty cool. Kind of an advantage of not having cephalization, can't get decapitated. With that, that ends our notes on echinoderms.